You are live. Welcome to the show. Ow! Ow, ow. I wish I could tell you a song, but I don't know what it is. Welcome to the show. It is August 8th, 2026. Welcome. Thank you for joining. We're going to get right into it. Do you know what Junction Food Bazaar is? I am not going to tout them on this show. I'm going to criticize them because you see that receipt right there? Maybe I could zoom in as much as I can. Yeah, you can't really see it. I was going to upload it. You know what this says? I went into Junction Food Bazaar today, okay? And for those of you that know this store started in Queens. Now they have 38 stores across New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. I had to look this up, but I had a terrible experience with them. Let me tell you what happened. I went in there. I bought like 6 different items. I purchased it. I took my receipt. I tossed it in the trash bin, and I left like I usually do. I never keep my receipts. What ended up happening was as I walked out, I saw on my phone Apple Pay for a charge about $52. And I knew in my head, I was like, wait a second. So I looked in my bag and I did the math real quick and I was like, no. This should be like $35. So I got ripped off for about $17. So I walk back into the shop. I go to the trash bin. It was a clean trash bin. It was like off to the side somewhere. It wasn't really used. One of those little trash bins. I go, I pull out the receipt. There was like nothing in there except for maybe one more receipt. I grab it. And you know what I see on the receipt? I see that body of pepper. Yeah, this right here, pimenta, and that's Portuguese. Pimienta is Spanish. $20.99. $21 for this piece of shit. This is right here, Junction 34th Avenue and 95th Street, the first one that ever opened up, the first Junction Food Bazaar that ever opened up in Queens. That was $21. And then I bought tuna, and these were 3 for $5, but they charged me $9. So I walk back in and I say, excuse me. I said, hey, is this? I was like, this is $21? Manager, super nonchalant, looks at me. She's like, yeah, I'm sorry, sir. Those are the prices. I'm like, this is $21 and this is $9? I was like, this says 3 for $5. So then I look at the assistant manager and she's forthcoming to me. She understands. And I didn't want to make a scene or anything. She's like, sir, she's like, so would you like a refund? And I was like, yeah. I was like, hold on. So so she's like, yeah, I'm going to process the refund. And I was just like, she's about to process the refund, right? She didn't say that just yet, right? She's looking at my receipt. And I said, hold on. I said, so these 2 things, and I had the pepper right next to the 3 cans of tuna. I said, so these 2 things, this is $30? I was like, who's paying for this in Queens? Who's paying for this in New York City? $30 for pepper and 3 cans of tuna? Now, it was very interesting what happened. I wish I had my meta glasses because this would have been great to record. As I'm standing there, one woman actually backs me up. She's like, you're right. She said, the prices are way too high here. It all changed because they used to be one of the more affordable supermarkets in the area. Now I know that margins in supermarkets are slim. They're 1 to 2%. It's tough to get by, but you don't have to rip people off. There's something called goodwill, and it goes a long way. You can serve the community. You can choose to serve the community and do right by the people that are coming to your shop and spending their hard-earned money, or you can squeeze every nickel and dime out of us. Another woman that was standing beside me said, you're right. She also backed me up. The assistant manager stepped up to me and she was very kind. She tried to assist me. Let's just put it that way. She was doing right by me. And when we made eye contact, I said, so this is $30. And she was like, I know. She's like, I'm sorry, we don't make the prices. And I said, and then the cashier, she's looking at me as well. And she's just like, she knew as well. The whole place grew silent. And everyone knew, even though this was awkward and uncomfortable, of course, it doesn't have to be that way. Everyone knew, and I wasn't yelling or anything like that, but it was certainly theatric because I was like, so hold on. I just want to get this right. These two things are $30. This is $21. I wanted to make my point. I wasn't trying to yell. I wasn't trying to embarrass anyone, and I didn't. I didn't yell or raise my voice, but I was the only one talking at that point. So everyone was hearing me, you know, and they even like cut off the other woman to give me the refund. But here's where I kind of got a little upset, but again, I didn't yell or anything. I called over the manager. She's standing not even 10 feet away from me. And I said, excuse me. I was like, excuse me, you're the manager, right? I had to say it 3 times. Then I get her attention. The assistant manager, again, she was really trying to cater to me, just make sure that I was okay and that she righted the situation. The manager, she goes, yes. And I said, ma'am, I was like, I just want to confirm. So these 2 items are $30, right? I was like, who's paying those prices? And she's like, sir, I'm sorry, we don't make the prices. I was like, no, you do make the prices. Because at the end of the day, you at least have influence. Yeah, you're not the owner. The owner is some Korean family that probably doesn't live in this area, probably doesn't give a shit. They got 38 stores. They're building condominiums. They're probably worth over $100 million. And if you really want the takeaway from what I'm saying here, this isn't right. It's not right. I'm a Queens native. I'm from here. I know how to shop cheap. I buy my produce from one store. I get my meat from another. There isn't a single good supermarket in our area. And this is wrong. What Food Bazaar is doing is wrong. You do not have to squeeze customers. What are we living here for? Like, why did you come into our community to do something like this? Trader Joe's doesn't do that. Aldi doesn't do that. And don't talk about quality. Don't tell me that, oh, hey, maybe there was a mistake. There was no mistake. And by the way, when I picked up the pepper, it actually said it was $7.79. But when I asked her, I said, hey, is this the price? She said, yeah, that's the price. Well, I would have never picked it up. So yeah, you might call it mislabeled, but that's not the point. Why are we paying $21 for fucking pepper? And guess what? Now it's not, call it a boycott, call it whatever you want. I'm not going to go there anymore. And you might think, oh, they don't give a shit about you. Yes, they do. Moron. If you're a true businessman, yes, you do. You care about every customer. Of course, you can't get every customer. But if you're losing a customer for something like this, if this is the gripe, if this is why you lost the customer, because you have egregious prices like this, shame on you. You shouldn't be in business. And you damn sure shouldn't be serving. You shouldn't be serving any community. You just shouldn't even be allowed to exist, in my opinion. Yeah, don't shop there. Guess what? Most of the supermarkets in this area do the exact same thing. So it's not just shame on Food Bazaar. It's shame on all of these establishments. And if you're curious, I actually looked into opening up a fucking supermarket over here. It's going to cost $6 to $8 million. I created a business plan. I was actually going to try to look for financing. I'm just trying to find the right location. The one that I was thinking about is actually going to be taken. So yeah, what's my gripe? My gripe is that this is out of control. This isn't even about inflation. I'm not going to put this on the president. I'm not going to put this on prices just going up. This is out of control. Under no circumstance should we be paying these prices. Don't tell me that they're private. They could do whatever they want. Capitalist society. I don't want to hear it. At the end of the day, consumers should wake up. I know at the end of the day, they kind of have us by the balls, right? Because we have no other choice. But we can do something about this, just like we can boycott any other company out of existence, right? At the end of the day, we have the final say. If collectively we agreed and we said, you know what? We're not going to Food Bazaar anymore. Your prices are outlandish. Do something about it, management. They would be forced to lower prices. You know why? Do you know what the alternative would be? Fucking going out of business. And that's not an alternative to them. So they would be forced to lower prices. This is fucking outrageous. Let me get to you the second point that I have here on Food Bazaar. I call up my mother and I tell her about this gripe. You know what she tells me? My mother, that's 72 years old. I said, Food Bazaar is a great place. You should see the new one that they opened. So because I recommended it, even though she was going there for years, again, we went to the first one that was open 30 years ago. And then as prices started elevating, we stopped. I went to the new one to check it out a couple weeks back. My mom goes in there a week ago. She sees a sign right there in the front. Senior citizens, 10% discount, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. Ages 65 years and older. So my mom goes, she buys some fruit, something else, 2 items. She goes to the cashier. She says, excuse me, can I have the senior citizen discount? The woman goes, oh, this doesn't apply. My mom says, why? She says, oh, because it doesn't apply on it. It doesn't include produce. Yeah, it just does. It's only, sorry. The woman says it's only for produce. My mom goes, okay. She said it's only for produce and that's already been discounted. My mom goes, okay. She said, but the peaches actually aren't discounted already. And the sign doesn't say it's only for produce. Can we go back to the sign and check? And by the way, everyone should already know. I would be so surprised if a fucking sign actually said produce only for senior citizens. Like they only get a discount on fucking produce. What fucking supermarket says that? Most supermarkets do offer a senior citizen discount. What fucking sign, what stupid ass establishment, and I wouldn't put that past any supermarket actually, because there are a lot of stupid fucking managers and stupid business owners out there. But what fucking supermarket is going to say senior citizen discount, 10% produce only in the fine print? So my mom knew what she read. So guess what? My mom invites her to go back. My mom says, can we go back and look? The woman says, no. It says that. No, it only applies to produce. So my mom goes, okay. She's like, so then you know what the cashier says? She says, do you still want the items? And my mom says, no, I don't. It's not about the fucking money at that point. It's about the principle. Number one, she's a senior citizen. Number two, you know damn well this fucking sign doesn't say it. Number three, she was willing to fucking verify it. Yo, what the fuck is going on here? What's going on here? I'm speaking about Food Bazaar. I'm speaking about businesses in general. I'm speaking about the overall cost of goods. What the fuck is going on here? And I'm not happy about it because at the end of the day, I have enough money. God has given me enough in my life. Thank him. I thank him every single day for it, multiple times a day. Most people are not in my camp. Most people are struggling to make ends meet. And I still feel that way today, even though maybe I'm not so much in that situation anymore. I still care about fucking prices. My head's not in the fucking clouds over here. Something needs to be done about this. And you know what? You know what really should be done? We should fucking organize. And yes, we should fucking boycott. I'm not just talking out my ass over here. We can actually take action against this. There's no reason. If you do not want to pay these prices, you are not alone. Again, I really wish I could have recorded that scene. Not only would it have been entertaining, but you really would have felt what everybody else was seeing and hearing. Because everyone knew. I made eye contact with multiple people, and they knew. There was a silent agreement. Not only did a couple people back me, but there was silent agreement, including the assistant manager and the three cashiers that I looked at, to say, yeah, we know. We fucking know. The prices are outlandish here. You think I wanted to fucking raise a stink about this? No, but it was fucking principle. Is no one supposed to say nothing about $21 fucking pepper? 21 fucking dollars? I didn't even get an apology for this shit. This was supposed to be, the fucking tuna was supposed to be 3 for $5. I didn't get an apology that it was mismarked or something. They should have at least honored it. I wasn't in a rush to get my fucking money back. I was asking what was happening here. We have to do something about this. You want to fucking change something, we have to do something about this. Don't ask Mayor Mamdani. Don't go to President Trump. The power is in the fucking people. Now, of course, step one is recognizing what the situation is, recognizing what the problem is, talking shit about it, raising awareness. Step two is action. I hope anyone that sees this fucking video decides to say, you know, the next time, at the very least, go to Food Bazaar with a little bit more scrutiny and saying, yeah, what the fuck am I paying for? At the very least, keep your receipt and check everything that you were charged for. Because these people out here are getting away with murder. I'll give you one more anecdote from my best friend, which I told about this story. He said he walked into a bodega the other day. He rounds up 6 fucking items. He asks how much it is. The person says $18. The cashier says $18. You know what my friend says? He's like, whoa. Because my friend's a New Yorker. He's not fucking stupid. And $18 isn't shit to him. But again, it's fucking principle. He says, wait a second. How much is each item? The guy counts the 6 items, does the math out loud, and says, oh, it's $12. My friend gives him an evil eye, right? A shameful eye. And that's the end of it. Guess what? They just lost a fucking customer. But it's stories like these that have to be shared. Because if collectively, if we say, you know what? To hell with Food Bazaar. Change your fucking prices. Change your fucking structure in how you charge us. We are your fucking customers, not the other way around. You're supposed to serve the community, not steal from us. 21 fucking dollars for this piece of shit. No apology. No fucking regard for the fact that this is fucking outlandish. So yes, we should fucking organize. We should be saying collectively, let's not shop there. Let's make them change their fucking ways. Because right now they're getting away with these antics. And here's the last thing I gotta say. Fuck you, Food Bazaar, because that's the first thing I wanted to say on this fucking cast. Big fuck you. And at the beginning of this, I was like, oh shit, it's a Korean family? Yeah, good for them. They're great. Yeah, awesome. I love that they're expanding. Oh, look, they started in our community. They started now they're serving multiple different places. Fuck you. And they may not care, but they just lost a fucking customer. I'm not going over there. I'm not going to shop over there. But again, worst part about it is I may have that choice. Most people don't. Fucking bullshit. I could end the show right here. I'm just fucking satisfied. I feel like I just took a shit. Let's go. On with it. Damn. Someone's got to fucking fight for us. That shit should be illegal. Unfucking believable, man. All right, let's get into it. Let's talk jobs.
And here we go, Joe. July employment figures populating. Buckle up on this one. Minus 23,000 on non-farm payrolls. I can hear the bond yields falling right now. Minus 23,000. That would be the second worst number of the year outside of the only other negative number, minus 156 in February. Now, if you look at the 2-month revision, another whopper, minus 103,000. Manufacturing payroll is actually a bright spot. Manufacturing up 5,000. That would be the best since it was up 15,000 in March, and that was the high watermark going all the way back to 23. Okay.
I love this guy. This is Rick Santelli from CNBC. I love him. He talks bonds, he talks options, he talks interest rates, he talks all the economic reports. He's awesome. Anyway, you think the market gave a shit? Do you? No. They don't care at all. The United States lost 23,000 jobs in July. Does the stock market care? No. Here's the stock market. S&P 500, all-time highs. Dow Jones Industrial Average, all-time highs. Russell 2000, all-time highs. S&P 500 is up this year 12%. Hey, first question I have for you. Did you make 12% on your money through August 8th? Let me ask the question again. Have you made 12% on your money since January 1st to August 8th? It is a very important question. I am not being facetious here. Have you? Because if you haven't, that was your opportunity cost. You just lost 12%. You have to look at it that way. It is that dire. It is that important. 6 months of this year. How many years you living on this planet? 80? I mean, seriously, how many money-making years do you have in your life? Get to investing, invest in indexes, be safe, do not pick stocks, do not touch stupid ass cryptocurrency, do not touch stupid ass penny stocks, invest in the S&P 500, look at the history, do some due diligence, read about it, educate yourself. You should know enough about finance. You should know enough about financial markets. Full stop. The S&P 500, Dow Jones, both up 12% this year. Russell 2000, up 22% this year. Please, do yourself a favor. So no, the market doesn't give a shit. But let's look at the monthly job creation in the United States, January 2022 to 2026. You see a pattern here developing? I do. We're not creating jobs. We are not creating jobs. And you see what happened 2025? Yeah, right over here where my cursor is. That's when Trump took over. We're not creating jobs. But that's when AI really took off, right? And now I would also say, I'm not going to necessarily blame Trump here, but listen, hey, he takes credit for the stock market. So he has to either take the credit or the heat for everything else. So technically we do have to blame Trump here, right? This is either Trump's fault or his credit, whatever it is. This is under Trump's watch. 2025, we don't have jobs. Now, we're losing jobs. You see that right there, right? That's tilted below the x-axis, right? So we're losing fucking jobs over here. Now, and of course there's revisions, etc. There were hiring freezes in 2025. You heard it from virtually every CEO. You heard it on earnings calls. There are hiring freezes because we're becoming so much more productive with artificial intelligence that they're thinking twice before hiring the next human resource. So it's been a very challenging job market. Now, if correlations are all busted for the most part, you would think that if we had a bad jobs number, right, you would think that yields would go up, right? Less risk in the market, right? People would start, you would think yields would go down, right? If we're losing jobs, right, yields would go down because people would start buying bonds. There's an inverse relationship there. People would buy bonds, therefore yields would go down. However, you don't know where yields are going to go. Yields could go up, yields could go down from here. It doesn't matter. There's been no correlation that's been respected in the last 10 years. Yes, you're going to find oddball patterns that you could potentially publish, but for the most part, you could try to find the analytics on it. It's not going to tell you what the stock market is going to do, and it's certainly not going to tell you it's certainly not going to tell you what bond rates are going to do. Now, this is about jobs, right? We're not seeing jobs. 2025, 2026, we are not seeing jobs. Let's get into some of the numbers. By the way, The same day this report came out, which was on August 7th, the S&P 500 rose 0.6% and closed at a new all-time high. The NASDAQ gained 1.3%. Now, economists actually expected to add approximately 80,000 jobs in July. Instead, we lost 23,000 jobs. Net loss. May's gain was revised down from 129,000 jobs to 63,000, while June was reduced from 57,000 to only 20,000. Combined, those 2 months produced 103,000 fewer jobs than previously reported. Across the first 7 months of 2026, this is the important number. The country has added approximately 420,000 jobs, and that averages to 60,000 jobs per month. Compare that with the recent past. The United States added millions of jobs annually during the recovery from the pandemic, more than 6 million in both 2021 and 2022, approximately 3 million in 2023, and roughly 2 million in 2024. By 2025, annual job creation has slowed dramatically. The trailing 12-month average is now only about 34,000 jobs per month. Over the 3 months ending in July, the average is approximately 20,000 per month. Can we get away with that? A lot of people are saying that we can, including Elon Musk. He's saying nobody's going to need a job by 2035. Nobody's going to need money by 2035 because AI is going to produce so much productivity that nobody's going to have to work and there will be no need for money. Yeah, I want to see that. This guy throws out a whole bunch of shit, right? Wasn't he supposed to be on Mars? Weren't we supposed to colonize Mars? Or did he say we were supposed to be on Mars by 2026? Something like that, right? Anyway, the labor force participation rate is around 61.5%. Do you see this chart? This takes us to 2026, June 2026. The last time we were there, the labor force participation rate, the last time we were there, 1976. In the 1970s. That's our labor force participation rate, right? Because, of course, because here's the thing. Unemployment ticked down, right? Unemployment came in at, I believe, the unemployment rate ticked down from 4.2% in June to 4.1% in July. But we lost 23,000 jobs. I mean, what does that tell you? That tells you more and more people are leaving the workforce. So the unemployment rate went down, but we lost jobs last month. Come on now. I mean, these numbers, and by the way, most of these numbers are surveys. That's why you see so many revisions, right? Or they're preliminary data, and then you see revisions. Who knows what they're publishing out there? I don't really like being a cynic with this data because you got to look to this data. It's very important. Not only is it super important data, but everyone's looking at it. So if you're the cynic, you're the odd one out. If this is the group of market participants, as far as the investing pool is concerned, these are all the market participants, you're the odd one out if you're saying these numbers don't matter. Doesn't mean you're not right, but you can't be a cynic. You actually have to look at this data. Labor force participation, you know what that means? Ah, shit, man. You don't get a job in the last 4 weeks, you're out. You're out of the labor force. These numbers they really don't make a lot of sense. But this is a very important number because this is barely over half of all of our eligible labor force participants. Just over half are working. 40% are not working. What do you think our gross domestic product would be if we even got, 5 more percentage points? Look at where we were in 2000. This has nothing to do with COVID. COVID's an anomaly. Look at where we were in 2000. We were at like 67%. Now we're at 61%, steadily going down. Look at the pattern. Up, down. That's all you need to know. So let's get back to some other numbers. So right now, we are creating about 60,000 jobs per month. I don't think that's really bad. I think 50,000 is a very good number relative to our labor force. And I think if we continue down that path, I don't think the Federal Reserve is going to see a problem. I don't think they would want to. Lower rates. But if we start losing jobs, they're going to start wanting to lower rates for sure. I don't think they should hike or lower at this point. I think they should just stay flat. Of course, if you lower rates, that's because you want to make borrowing money a lot more accessible and cheaper. Therefore, the idea is that companies would then be able to borrow money, hire people, and then you would create more jobs. You would create essentially a growth spurt in the economy if you lower those rates. You make money more accessible. But if you higher rates and you tighten, you make borrowing more expensive. People start tightening their belts. They borrow less money, therefore less jobs, because you can hire less people. That's the correlation. That's essentially how that's essentially how the Fed will pull their levers. Now, the trailing 12-month average is now only about 34,000 jobs per month. Over the last 3 months, the average is 20,000 jobs. And yeah, you want some recency here, right? So yes, America is still adding jobs when we examine the entire year, but the pace is declining significantly. July's losses included approximately 50,000 jobs in local government education and 19,000 in retail. Financial activities lost another 14,000 and are down approximately 121,000 jobs since May 2025. Healthcare added 22,000 positions, but even that was below its recent average. And then, of course, you have labor force participation. So right now we are at, so the labor force participation rate fell to 61.4%. That's down from 62.1% in January of this year. So that means only about 61 Americans out of every 100 age 16 or older are either working or actively searching for employment. I'm going to take a coffee break. Okay, I'm back. Approximately 264,000 people left the labor force in July. Once someone stops actively searching, that person is no longer counted as unemployed. That helps explain how unemployment declined to 4.1%, even though the country lost jobs. Because again, we keep discounting people. Oh, you didn't look for a job? You didn't look for a job for the last 4 weeks? Out of the labor force. Man, that is a very easy way to manipulate this data. However, they're consistent with the data, so you have that. I'm not saying that we shouldn't believe these numbers, but we should scrutinize them. Understand what we're saying when we say the unemployment rate is 4.1%. Understand what we're saying when we say the labor force participation rate is 61%. Understand what we're saying when we say we're losing jobs. Now, the most important question here is for the audience. Are you having trouble finding a job? I ask this question all the time. That's the most important question. And that really can't be quantified, right? Because we can't question everybody. We could only do a survey. That's going to be a sample size. Where do you do it? Who do you ask as far as demographic, age, all of that? How recent was the poll? But those are that qualitative response is actually the most important. Meaning, if I go to 50 different people or 100 different people, if I had the capacity to, right? Sure, you can do it. I probably could, right? I would just have to take a camera and a microphone. But let's say I went out to 100 people in the street. Of course, there is some bias here. It would be in New York City. Maybe I do it in Queens. Maybe I do it in Manhattan. Whatever. If I did that and I gathered those responses and I said, hey, are you having trouble finding a job? Oh, yeah, you are? Okay. How old are you? I'm 34 years old. Male. I had a job as recently as 6 months ago. I work in IT, right? You need all that information. But everything that if they were to give me that full response matters. That matters tremendously. That's what the Fed needs to fucking hear, in my opinion. There are these statistics. They need something supplementary, which I don't think they really get. it's easy to say like Gen Zers are having a hard time to finding a job. Where's the research being done? The qualitative responses, right? When people are just talking, shooting the shit, that's actually the most valuable information that I think needs to be a direct input to the Federal Reserve. They need to hear those opinions, not one or two. I'm not talking about a town hall, although those would be valuable as well. But we need that in aggregate. We need that in large numbers. We need volume behind it. If I'm sitting in the Fed chair position, like Kevin Warsh is, that's what I'm asking for. I'm creating a task force to go out there and survey actual people. Are you having a tough time finding a job? Why do you think so? What field are you in? How old are you? Where are you located? We need that type of information to really understand whether the labor market is healthy or not. You can't just look at these job numbers, which are surveys, which has revisions, which are taken in arrears. There's too many issues with them. Again, I don't want to be a cynic, but you got to scrutinize the data a little. Now, some of the long-term decline is demographic. America is getting older, and retired people remain inside the working age population used to calculate this rate, but the participation rate is still at its lowest level since early 2021. And again, if you look at this, I mean, damn, we're at 1970s levels. That's where you draw a line. Because 2021 was low as well. So why did stocks reach an all-time high? It's because nobody gives a shit. They look at this as a fake out. And of course, investors will interpret anything as, oh yeah, well, we had a bad jobs report. See, bad data, this is why I'm telling you that the correlations are out of whack. And this is why it's not that I disrespect them or I disregard them, but you have to take them with a grain of salt. And everybody on Wall Street knows this. It's not that this isn't any inside information, right? You do have to look at the numbers, but you have to put them in perspective. What do I mean by that? Bad news used to be bad news. Bad news today means good news sometimes. And this has been the pattern over the last 5 years. Remember, the market paradigm, the market dynamic is forever changing. No matter what angle or edge that you think you have in the market today, you have to transform and transcend that theory, that thesis over time. Meaning that anybody that's been successful on Wall Street, whatever you're doing today, you were not doing 5 years ago. And whatever you were doing 5 years ago, you were not doing 5 years before that. I'm not saying that you have to change every 5 years, but you have to change with the market because the market is forever changing. I mean, we are about to have 24/7 trading. You've never seen a dynamic like that at play. Never. And you could never emulate one, no matter how intelligent AI is. So when we now hear bad news, it's somehow good news. Case in point. We just got a bad jobs report. We lost 23,000 jobs. Do I need to play Rick Santelli again? We lost 23,000 jobs. What happened? People said, oh, that's good news. Why? Because the Fed chair, Kevin Warsh, that means he's more likely to lower interest rates. We just had a Fed meeting last week. Everybody thought he might hike interest rates. What are we talking about over here? Oh, by the way, he just took over. That was his first Fed meeting. And you know what he's been saying? His whole theory around the Fed is to make sure that they remain unpredictable. They don't want to give too much away. They want less Fed speech. They want less dot plots. They want less, not market certainty. It's not like they want to confuse us, but they don't want to be so predictable that the public knows what they are going to do. However, what that does is produce more volatility, right? More uncertainty is more volatility. Now, that may be good for you if you're a trader, but his predecessor, Jay Powell, wanted the opposite. He wanted more Fed speech. He wanted more meetings. He wanted more information out to the public. He couldn't always provide that as far as their projections for where interest rates would go in the future. They usually had to wait on the data, especially when COVID happened. But before that, before COVID, they were providing with dot plots where they thought where interest rates would go, meaning that they would raise interest rates at the next meeting and the next meeting. based on their current projections. The current Fed chair does not want that. He wants unpredictability. It's not that he wants unpredictability, but he wants less people to know what the Fed is about to do. He thinks that's better because it not only keeps markets on edge, but it keeps markets guessing. Therefore, he thinks that the market is going to correct itself. Instead of the Fed intervening and hiking rates or lowering rates, he wants the market itself to dictate where those interest rates go. So if interest rates should go up, he wants people to sell bonds so that they can go up. If interest rates should go down, he wants the market to correct it itself and buy bonds up so interest rates can go down. He only wants to intervene when he needs to, and he wants no one other than the Federal Reserve Committee to know when they are doing so. That has been his approach. He said it on Capitol Hill when he was being interviewed for the job, and he said it at his first Fed meeting. But that's why bad news here means good news, because all the correlations are broken. Us losing 23,000 jobs somehow got interpreted by the market to say, oh, that's good. Kevin Warsh, he might lower rates. That's like an ass backwards theory. That theory, like that correlation makes zero sense 15 years ago. As a matter of fact, if you said that 15 years ago to someone, you were either like a savant or people were like, you're stupid and you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Now it's like, oh yeah, bad news is good news and good news is good news. So when the fuck is the market going to go down? When's it going to crash? Now, I did do a lot of analysis. I'm going to have the next show most likely is going to be straight up about patterns on the S&P 500, what happens when you buy 5% dips and all of that, but not this show. But we're still getting into it, right? We're staying on this. So this means that bad economic news can produce good market news. But how long can that contradiction continue? Stocks can rise because rates may remain lower, right? If rates go down, stocks go up. If rates go up, stocks go down. And honestly, the easiest way to understand that is if rates are high enough and you look at that as being the risk-free rate, right? If bonds are high enough, why would I go take risk in the market, right? Now, most people are going to be like, yeah, well, bonds are at 5%. And if the market usually offers 10 to 12% every year, then I'm leaving 7% on the table. You can rationalize it that way, but most people are not going to look at it that way. Oh, by the way, you got to remind yourself, there's a lot of multimillionaire and billionaires out there. Ton of them, like more than we actually think. They would be happy with a risk-free rate of 5%, knowing that the US government is going to pay them. So if bonds hit, if 10-year bonds hit 6%, that's probably our threshold. Historically, it's never been a problem in markets if you look back 100 years. However, I mean, you got to think about it from what I usually do for my own like investment approach. I'm like, yeah, 6%. You think a fucking billionaire gives a shit? What? $1 billion invested, which is out there. Like they are investing that money. The guy just made $600 million risk-free. You think he gives a shit? You think he's concerned about generating alpha? You think he's trying to invest in NVIDIA, trying to find the next best thing? You think he's investing in penny stocks? Of course he isn't. Stay away from penny stocks. I just hear it too much. Some people just live by it. You are fucking gambling. Go to the roulette table. I would rather you play craps than fucking bet on penny stocks. And listen, I've spoken to enough people in my life where like the best argument I ever heard for penny stocks was like, listen, this is how I play the game. It's like throwing dots. I throw a little money over here, a little money over there. One of them hits. For every 10 or 20 I invest in, one of them hits and makes up for the whole. I'm like, okay, fine. Probably the best rationale I ever heard on penny stocks. Stay away from penny stocks. It's all bullshit. So how long can a contradiction like that continue? We just heard a headline. A headline just came across. The U.S. just lost 23,000 jobs in July. We're only averaging 60,000 jobs per month, 20,000 jobs over the last 3 months. Yet the market is at all-time highs. And that means something. Everyone's always going to say stock market isn't the economy. Is it? Y'all, it is the economy. Because at the end of the day, if the stock market's going down, the economy's going with it. You're not going to have jobs. You're going to have hiring freezes. You probably have high inflation. Maybe you have stagflation, high prices, low employment. So you can't really have, a good economy with a poorly driven stock market. It just doesn't happen. So stocks can rise because rates remain lower, but corporations ultimately need customers, revenue, and economic growth. And that's why there's a theory on Wall Street. As long as there's jobs, I believe in this market. Seriously, people don't even give a shit about inflation. As long as there's jobs, because if you have enough employment, people are just going to spend money, especially this economy, the American economy. Remember, 70% of our gross domestic product is consumer spending, meaning that 70% of everything we produce is because people are opening up their wallets. I was just looking for a wallet, but I don't have one. I just don't have one in my life. I don't have a wallet. This is the wallet I have right here, back of my phone. So there's this theory. I follow jobs. You'll hear it from a lot of different analysts on Wall Street. They'll say, hey, as long as we have decent job growth, I'm okay. I'll tell you right now, you want to hear a little, reversal course of action? Keep seeing this number dip below the x-axis. If you see this here on your screen, if you keep seeing this number dip below the x-axis, meaning we are losing jobs, net loss, net loss, net loss. Oh yeah. It wouldn't even matter if we didn't go into a recession. That alone would, in my opinion, would drive enough investor fear. Like, I personally would get out of the market. I'm out. I'm waiting at that point, right? Remember what Charlie Munger said? You just don't want to take losses, right? Just avoid losses. You will make money. It's very prudent, right? Think about it. Just avoid losses, right? No one avoids losses, but just avoid the losses. You will stay profitable. In this case, once you start seeing that the water's starting to get murky, right? The stock market's a little frothy. I mean, let me give you a scenario here, because everybody always wants to know what's going to happen in the future, right? And I don't fucking know. Nobody does, right? Market's at all-time highs. We're at all-time highs right now. All of a sudden, you start getting job prints that are negative, negative, negative. What would you do with your money? What would you do? Would you just stay invested in the market 100%? I'm not talking about the investment analysts that have to do so by their customers, right? Their funds may say that we're invested 100% of the time. I'm asking you, what would you do? What do you think is the most prudent action at that point in time? You take your money and you run. Why? Because let's look at the stock. Let's look at a chart, right? How many dips are there? Here's the S&P 500. Here's the S&P 500 over the last 10 years. Last 10 years, 255% if you just stay invested. There are several dips. You're going to get a 5% dip. Almost every 12 months, there's at least 1 or 2 5% dips. And then you reinvest. So for the people that say, I don't want to sell, I just want to hold on to it, you're at all-time highs. Again, you're at all-time highs, and you start seeing negative job print after negative job print. Or let me give you another example. Watch. Let's go back to the jobs chart. This is why you can't really be a passive investor. You can, no matter what, you're going to make 10% year over year, right? You're going to make 10% year over year in the long run. And I think you're actually going to make more than that going forward. Eventually, everything's going to fucking crash. And I'm not just talking about a recession. We'll always bounce back, but you never know. We always say that the U.S. market is resilient, but you never know what's going to happen, right? You just don't know. You don't know. And if you think that it's never going to happen, you're taking a tremendous risk. And I don't think you're being smart enough with your money, because you could make so much more. Look, is right now we're at all-time highs. Does that mean we're at the top? I don't know. Nobody knows. But all of a sudden, I'm starting to see negative job prints. Wouldn't it be a little prudent of me to say, you know what? Let me sell out of the market. Let me wait for the market to drop 5%. I'm invested in ETFs at this point, right? Let's just play out the scenario here. All I gotta wait for is 5%. Do I know if this is the top? I don't know. But let me measure, right? All-time high. Let's say after today, the next 3 months, the market makes 20 more all-time highs. Great. I'm still waiting on the sidelines. Let me wait until the market drops 5%. You don't know if it's going to go sideways, down, up, right? But I'm seeing negative job prints. And I'm seeing us at all-time highs. What goes up must come down, right? I'm not saying, like, that's what I'm saying. It's really not hard to invest in the stock market. Buy ETFs when you feel that we're at extreme levels, which are usually all-time highs. Sell out. Sell out. Wait in cash. Be smart. Something's always going to happen. We're going to resume fighting with Iran. There's going to be a global recession. There's going to be World War III. We're going to have a natural disaster. Whatever it is, something is going to happen. Something always happens. We're going to have another pandemic. Market drops 5%. Market drops 10%. Buy it back up. Did you lose? No. If anything, you were prudent with your money. Now you're going to magnify your returns. However, the rule of thumb on Wall Street is you invest and you don't touch it. Investing is not trading. But to me, my opinion, you got to sell out every once in a while, every couple of years. And especially at a time like this is when I would sell out. Not necessarily right now. And you do have this whole AI thing going on, right? I would stay invested. But if you start seeing these negative job prints, get ahead of it. Get out of the market. Because, of course, 1 weak month does not establish a recession. But if hiring continues deteriorating, eventually that affects consumer spending and corporate earnings, right? Corporations are not going to make enough money, and consumers are not going to spend. Therefore, corporations will not make money, right? Target, Walmart, whoever the fuck we're buying from, they're not going to receive our money because we don't have jobs. That's why you got to watch jobs. That's why, again, in general, investment analysts will say, as long as there are jobs in the economy, I'm okay with being fully invested. The pattern is difficult to ignore. Fewer jobs, repeated downward revisions, declining participation rate, slower wages, and a stock market reaching record highs. This is probably the recipe for, hey, let's get out. Right now, the market cared about the jobs report, but it interpreted it a different way. It said, hey, bad jobs report means we're going to lower interest rates. That's good. That's so hypothetical. At this point in time, all things considered, you looked at what we're not creating a lot of jobs. You look at labor force participation, and you look at the stock market at all-time highs. Maybe it's time to sell out right now. Maybe. Sell out, wait for a 5% drop. S&P 500 is at 77.57. Wait for it to go to 7,500. Buy back in again. That might work. All right, next topic. What a marathon. I get excited talking about stocks. You know what I'm saying? I could talk about stocks all day. Stocks. I'm going to talk about Junction Food Bazaar again because I'll go crazy. Pain in my ass. All right. Let's watch Amazon Zoox launching paid robo-taxis with no steering wheels or pedals. So, look, all right? I got nothing against taxi drivers. My dad was a taxi driver for 30 years in New York City, okay? But some of these taxi drivers, it's like, hey, yo, you smell like shit, bro. It stinks in here. Can I open up the fucking window? I'm not trying to complain about taxi drivers. Listen, they make the world go round. We need taxi drivers. Actually, I would rather have less cars, more taxis on the road. But now we're going to robo taxis, right? Google already has Waymo, part of their investment thesis, of course. So what do you think? What do you think about driverless taxis? Carrying paying passengers without a steering wheel or pedals. I mean, let's watch it. It looks pretty goofy and stupid, but this is the future, man. This is it right here. Eventually, I think we need a little less autonomy on the road so we can avoid accidents and we can have more efficiency. We got to do that topic. Like I envision like totally electrified roads where we're just zooming in and everything's super efficient, all of the merging. Right now it's like I can merge over one lane, go over here. I can just, because I can decide to go wherever I want with my car, because I have full autonomy, it makes for a lot more inefficiencies, which creates more traffic, which hurts our quality of life. I mean, there are statistics that are published every so often about how much time people actually spend in their cars in traffic. And I think those people have a lot more anxiety, are a lot more depressed, right? It leads to a shitty life. Boo-hoo. What you gonna do, cry? I don't know. Sometimes you need a good cry. You know, what am I gonna cry on screen? Maybe if I watch a good movie or something. Depends on the movie. Lion King, everybody cries for. And you know what? I wouldn't even want to cry for Lion King. I almost cried the last time I saw it because everybody cries. I want to cry for something else. I want to go against the current. You know what I'm saying? Too many people cry for that shit. But it was sad. And once you start getting into the movie, you can't help yourself from sobbing. Coffee break. Black coffee. Amazon owns Zoox. That's a good name. What do you think about the name? Zoox. 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 Will begin charging passengers for robo-taxi rides in Las Vegas on Monday. That is August 10th. These are not conventional cars with autonomous software added to them. Zoox designed the vehicle specifically for autonomous transportation. So what's the difference? There's no driver's seat. There's no steering wheel, accelerator, or brake pedal. 2 rows of passengers sit facing one another, and the vehicle can travel in either direction without making a conventional U-turn. Check it out on the inside. Oh, shit. Sitting in my Zoox with the new flavored Pepsi. You know where I get that from? I had a friend, and he just always wanted whatever was new. This is like in junior high school or something. So you know what the fuck he did one day? This fucking guy. And I was stupid. So I didn't know what the hell I was doing in my life. So he goes and he's like, oh, yo, I'm gonna rock this vanilla Coke. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yo, the vanilla Coke just came out. I got to try it. And I was just like, all right, cool. I was like, yeah, I want to try it too. So he goes and gets a vanilla Coke and he proceeds to take a sip. And then we walk out of the bodega and then he just puts it in his back pocket and wears that shit like it's a bandana or something, like he's in a gang or something. Like everyone's going to look at his ass and be like, oh, look at that, bro. He's rocking the vanilla Coke. What are you, fucking stupid? Put him in prison. I kid. Vanilla Coke was good, by the way. So, Amazon Zoox. How rich can we make Jeff Bezos? I think that's the question. But this is smart. No conventional U-turns. Smart. Already more efficient, right? We want to be more efficient. There's no driver's seat, no steering wheel, no accelerator, no brake pedal. Zoox has already offered free test rides in Las Vegas, San Francisco, Austin, and Miami. This is the first transition into a commercial operation, putting it into direct competition with Uber, Lyft, Waymo, and eventually Tesla's robotaxi service. Tesla is still testing in Austin. Now, federal regulators granted Zoox an exemption from vehicle safety rules requiring human controls. The exemption allows as many as 2,500 vehicles in the next 2 years. In each of the next 2 years. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration determined that Zoox provides safety equivalent to a conventional vehicle meeting federal standards. The company will face additional reporting requirements involving collisions, improper stops, and other operational problems. Let's stop there for a second, because you remember Tesla was refusing to share their data with our government. And that really wasn't even a big story. It's like, dude, Tesla, what the fuck, man? You remember when they started the autonomous driving and then they had to stop and then they had to restart and then they had to stop again? And all the meanwhile, Elon Musk was saying, fully autonomous, fully autonomous, fully autonomous. And it wasn't fully autonomous, right? And then a couple people died. And in my opinion, one death is enough. You don't need to see a pattern develop. You don't need to see a pattern emerge before we say, hey, let's put the brakes on this. And you actually saw a lot of inefficiencies. Like there were actually like virtual rides that you could take with Tesla's cars. And you saw that it wouldn't recognize like the right object on the road, or it wouldn't know how to make a U-turn in a particular road. Like there's just too much going on in these cities, right? That's why they started in a safer city like Austin. There's just too many bugs out there. And they introduced it way too early. Chevy took their car off the road. They lost a lot of money because of that. They actually nixed the whole plan. They're completely getting out of autonomous driving. Maybe they revive it one day. But the fact that, I mean, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, right, NHTSA, they're saying that Zoox provides safety equivalent to a conventional vehicle meeting federal standards, whatever the hell that means. But the company will face additional reporting requirements involving collisions, improper stops, and other operational problems. I like that. But why are you saying that they're just as safe as conventional cars, but demanding additional safety protocols in the form of reporting? Do I want this? Yes, I do. But then why are you saying that it's just as safe? There's a lot of bullshit going on, right? And there's always some greasing palms. There's always some shit going on behind the scenes. You don't just get to have autonomous vehicles. You don't just get to introduce new technology into the world without not only meeting certain federal regulations, but you also got to be friendly with that administration. That's just the reality of it. It's just how it works. Now, Zoox's fares will include a base price plus time and distance. Zoox expects to charge approximately what Uber or Lyft charges for a comfort tier ride, generally 20 to 40% more than a standard ride. But how safe is it? Zoox has issued multiple software recalls. One recent problem involved a vehicle struggling to detect heavy smoke near an emergency scene. Autonomous vehicles across the industry have also experienced difficulty with construction, emergency responders, unusual traffic patterns, and situations that were not adequately represented in their training data. It's just too complex to drive on these roads. I would think that New York City would be one of the last places that gets this at full scale. But of course, the comparison cannot be between robotaxis and perfect driving. It has to be between robotaxis and human drivers. Human error contributes to tens of thousands of American traffic deaths each year. People drink, text, speed, fall asleep, become distracted, and make emotional decisions. An autonomous system does not experience road rage or decide to check Instagram while moving at 60 miles per hour. So it's probably going to be more safe, right? Because for all of these reasons listed, there's just too many distractions. You could be a completely safe driver, but all of a sudden you get distracted with a billboard and there goes an accident. That's why it's called an accident, right? But maybe the uncomfortable part here is surrendering all control. If a conventional car's automated system fails, a person may be able to grab the steering wheel. Inside a Zoox vehicle, the passenger is completely dependent on the computer and whatever remote support the company provides. So yes, they're going to have a system behind the system to try to regulate the driving within their vehicles. But if you demanded that we had a human driver behind each one of these autonomous vehicles, it would be much like trains are conducted today, right? You have that human driver there as a fail-safe mechanism, one of the many fail-safe mechanisms. But at the end of the day, the car is still driving itself. Would I take one? Yeah, I would. I want to see what the new technology is like. I'm interested. I mean, it looks pretty cool, pretty spiffy. And this is the future, right? So, you know, at some point or another, I think everybody's going to be taking these. I want to see prices come down, to be honest. I want to see these rides cheap enough, not that they contend with having a conventional car, but that there's a discount here, right? Because if I just take, I don't know, 10 to 15 rides a month, I'm essentially paying for a car in New York City. Is like, I might as well have a fucking car, right? So it's just not that cost efficient. And that's what I'm looking for out of these. I'm looking for safety. I'm looking for more efficiency on the roads overall. More of these probably mean less traffic. But I'm also looking for a cost benefit. Aren't we all? So the fact that they're still going to cost above what Uber or Lyft is charging, that's not that great news. But again, this is all pilot, right? Eventually, hopefully they get this at scale, introduce that scale, and then we'll have a lot more cost efficiencies. I do want independent data showing crashes. I want to see injury reports. I want to see emergency interventions. I mean, we got to have access to that data, right? Are they going to publish it? I don't know. Maybe it goes to the Department of Transportation, but then they don't furnish that to us. We're already going to stop reporting what happens in national parks. Yeah, we did videos on that as well. Yeah, we're going to stop reporting national park deaths. For some reason, the US government wants to withhold that information. Isn't that fucking crazy to you? Just because the Department of Transportation is collecting this data, it doesn't mean they're going to share it with the public. But if vehicles eventually prove safer than humans, I mean, will we reach a point where human driving becomes the greater public danger? It's a good question. I think so. Because humans are fucking dangerous, man. We're very dangerous. You see enough road rage. I haven't really gotten road rage, but sometimes I get angry in the car. That's enough. Because you don't know what could happen from there, right? Like, I've gotten angry enough in the car to the point where, you know, if someone were to get out of their car, I probably would have gotten out. I wasn't willing to initiate contact, but you just never know, right? So now Zoox does not have to prove that its system will never make a mistake. I mean, that's impossible, right? It's going to make mistakes. And no transportation system has ever been asked to meet that standard. But it must prove that its mistakes occur less frequently than human drivers, and that they cause less damage than our current system. And if they do that, then we probably will see them at scale. All right, I'm going to end it here. Thanks for watching. See you next time.